Welcome to Hassle-Free RE, the show where we share tips, tricks, and stories from the short-term rental industry and business alike. Hosted by Dave Minapace and Will Van Wickler. They'll help you navigate the exciting and ever-evolving world of short-term rentals. Whether you're a seasoned host or just starting out, they've got something just for you. In each episode, they'll bring you insider insights, expert advice, and real-life stories from hosts and industry professionals who have been through it all. They'll cover everything from maximizing your rental income and profits to creating unforgettable guest experiences and handling unexpected day-to-day challenges with ease. Are you ready to discover the secrets to running a successful short-term rental business without the hassle? Then let's get started. This is Hassle-Free RE.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Hassle-Free RE. I'm Dave Minapace, president of the Five Star Co-host, as well as Launchpad Consulting, here with Mr. Will Van Wickler, the world's number one real estate, I'm just kidding, New England's number one real estate agent. Short-term rentals, new construction, making dreams come true. How are you, man? How's it going?
I'm doing great. It's good to see you, Dave. How are you?
Good. You know, every time that countdown goes, I get so fired up. I love it.
Good way to hit a Wednesday, bright and early. Get after it.
I love it, dude. So what's happening in your world, man? How have things been?
It's been a busy start to the year. We just listed and put under contract a spec house that's not even sheetrocked, which was awesome. A great house on the lake.
Yeah.
We just put our Bethel spec house under contract, and we put a bunch of other clients under. So we're almost at 20 transactions, and we're in January, which just fires me up.
Jeez.
What are you up
and
to?
you got two more days left in the month, man. We're not
I know. Who else can we help? That's what I think.
I love it. Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. I know you're only getting better and better at, with each and every transaction, which is probably nearing 1,000 at this point over the course of your career. So I love it, man. I love it. We're things are good on our end. It's end of January when we're recording this. So a lot of tax stuff, just finalizing things from last year, getting the books closed and moving forward. It's been fun. We've been launching some amazing properties, which is cool. And, when you launch in peak season, you get bookings pretty quickly. And so that's been fun. Really, Cape Cod, South Shore, Southern Maine, Sunday River, like those are our zones, and we've been really hitting the ground running as it relates to management and getting owners just up and ready. So it's been fun. Before we introduce our guest, you and I have both seen some hot takes lately in the short-term rental space.
Yeah.
What's your reaction to some of the things we've seen? I have my own opinions, but what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's very interesting, and sometimes you got to bite your tongue and just grit your teeth and agree to disagree. I think a lot of people, unfortunately, they're not willing to do what it takes, and they're quick to blame markets and blame other people when in reality, this is investment real estate, right? You could take a property that's cash flowing and totally blow it up and ruin it, or not hit your goals, and it all comes down to what you are willing to do and doing the research, right? You can't just go off of the consultant or go off the realtor. I mean, I sell people properties, but if you're not willing to do the work yourself, you're never going to succeed. And I think there's some people that are getting quote unquote burned from it. And it's because of a lack of effort or, maybe some issues they've had themselves. So,
well, some of it comes down to education too. And, a big topic of what we're going to talk about today is going to be, getting education that is going to help support you in your business. And I see this 100%. In short-term rentals, mid-term rentals, and long-term rentals. Almost anyone that I've seen that's paid for mentorship and paid for coaching and education are not the ones suffering right now as it relates to real estate investing. But the folks who are kind of just like nonchalantly listening to podcasts, trying to figure out revenue management on their own, are left to their own devices, and they're just purely basing it off their own experience, which isn't super high, they're going to be struggling. And, especially in something like short-term rentals where demand is out of your control, it's very variable. Investments into a property are a lot more than countertops and cabinets, right? You're talking amenities, you're furnishing things, you're buying turnover sheets and sets of things. You're handling different personalities like cleaners and hot tub people and lawn people and handymen. You really have to be immersed in the world of hospitality with the goal of delivering a great vacation. And I'm just seeing it over and over again. Folks that are educated, be it short-term rental, long-term rental, new construction, rent flips, whatever it might be, folks that are educated have mentorship and somebody they can lean on or a program they can lean on are doing really, really well. And they're not accidentally buying deals that might be hairy. Folks that have no education are very quick to jump onto social media and say, I had misinformation, I was sold a bad deal, or, I didn't know this or I didn't know that. It's like, well, you also didn't know what to do due diligence on because you didn't obtain that education. So I think it's in any type of investment, whether you're going into a new market that's more competitive or you're getting into a new niche within real estate investing, get education and get it quickly, get it early, find a mentor that you can trust. And believe me, it's worth it. Those are the best investments that you can make, more so than a house at any point in time, in my opinion. So it's going
And
to
I
be a
hate to
big theme
say
of today.
yeah, the people complaining too about the gurus or the coaching programs being thousands of dollars. I mean, that's the world we live in, right? You pay for information. And I hate to say, if you don't like it, maybe look at a different asset class or the stock market or something like that. But still, you're going to run into professionals needing to be compensated for their time and expertise in any industry. And I think a lot of people, they don't succeed and then they blame it on, bad advice, or I'm not paying for
Anyone,
that coaching
anything.
program. Those are the people succeeding. It's the 80-20 principle, the top 20% is going to do 80% of the business. And it's the same in real estate investing.
Totally. Yeah. I know you invest in education for being a real estate agent, without realizing it, people invest hundreds of thousands of dollars into college and they don't even know what they want to do yet. So it's just really interesting. So it's just been my observation so far. But with that, I'm super excited to introduce today's guest. Today's guest is Adrienne Green. Now, Adrienne joined us back in 2022 with her husband, Harley Green, on this podcast. So go back to episode 15 of Hassle Free RE. Check it out. It's really cool. She walked through her whole investing journey. And the way that I met Adrienne was through Bigger Pockets when I was investing down in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Adrienne and her team facilitated probably close to 8 or 9 transactions for me and my business partner back a few years ago. And what was even more important to me is her and Harley really served as mentors for me in the space of, then it was long-term rentals, but then they were also the ones that gave me the idea to go to this conference, short-term rental, Build Short-Term Rental Wealth, I think it was called. Which completely changed the trajectory of my life. And so Adrienne's someone who's super special to me. I know both of you guys are Keller Williams and you guys have had connections, and just an amazing person overall. And she's been creating something and has created a product that will help a lot of people, especially as they're starting to scale their investment business and need to get out of the weeds a bit. So before I say any more, why don't we welcome on Miss Adrienne Green. Adrienne, how are you?
Hey, Will. Hey, Dave. I'm doing great. Thank you guys so much for having me here. I'm excited to get the chance to talk with you guys and share whatever I know that's helpful.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
Where are you calling out of today?
So yes, today I am in Hanoi, Vietnam. I just came here from the Philippines earlier this week, and today is actually Tet, or the Lunar New Year celebration here in Hanoi. So it's been really cool to be here on their biggest holiday of the year.
That's super cool. I love it. I said earlier before we were talking, I don't even know where that is. I had to look at a map.
Oh, that's amazing. So, Adrienne, I'd love to, part of what's special about this is you are calling from half a world away. I think it would be so cool if you could, maybe we pick up where we left off in episode 15, which was, I think you had just bought your second Myrtle Beach short-term rental. You have a portfolio of long-term rentals. And at that point, you were running the Auburndale Group real estate team. Why don't you get us up to speed over the last few years?
Yeah. So at that time, like you said, longtime real estate investor continuing to grow the portfolio. And I was a full-time real estate agent running a team of agents. And in 2023, actually, it was funny. I met Will in person. We went to the Keller Williams mega camp in 2023 of August. And as I left that conference, I just, realized that it was time for me to sell my team, right? I felt like I had poured into them everything that I could. It was time for someone else to take and continue to grow and take that next level. And one of the other things I realize now in hindsight is that every step of my entrepreneurial journey, right? Every step where I've gone and done something more entrepreneurial than because I was coming from a very traditional W-2 background with my parents and, what I was envisioning for myself. But every step to be more entrepreneurial came from a desire to really have, freedom, to have freedom of what I did with my time, to have freedom of where I spent it, right? Like location freedom. And that real estate team, while I did have a lot of freedom, at the end of the day, time in Chattanooga, Tennessee, running that team. And so I realized that my next evolution was to, again, have more freedom. And so, I sold that team. And what I continue to have and build since then is my real estate investing portfolio, which I have short-term rentals in Myrtle Beach. I have long-term rentals in Chattanooga, and then also have some passive investments in various syndications or partnerships. And then I have a virtual staffing business that my husband and I run that's, entirely virtual for us to manage. And then since selling the team, I've been able to create and launch a coaching and courses business to help established real estate investors learn how to run their portfolios like a business, how to leverage time and technology and systems to organize everything and get that time and financial freedom that they're really wanting.
That is amazing. What I think is so cool about you and Harley, I always say, what I'm learning to do and adapt to doing is delegate out a lot of things in my life, with exception to relationships with other people and relationships with my kids, my own health, and my own hobbies.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much most of the other things out, and most of the other things I can delegate. And it's cool. Like whenever Kim or I ping you, we learn something new, like, hey, how are you checking your mail from across the world? Like, oh, well, there's a mail service and that can get scanned and sent to our VA and a Monday task can be made. And I'm like, oh yeah, duh. It's so cool. You guys are like a few years ahead in just, essentially systematizing your lives so you can live this life that is really conducive to what you want. And probably so you can double down on those things that I just described, like your own health, your own relationships, and your own hobbies.
Right. And by leveraging out everything else, you have so much more time for all of those things that you just listed, which is what people, I think, don't realize. And then they do it and they see that that's the magic, right? And what really, I think, started all of this for me was in 2019 when we bought our first long distance rental, our first short-term rental in Myrtle Beach. And that's when I couldn't just do it all myself, right? Versus before that, our long-term rentals, we started out with house hacking our basement and then bought long-term rentals 15 minutes away from my house. So I could totally handle that all myself. And whenever something is a little more difficult, right? When you've got these like 10x goals, then you have to start getting creative and you have to start thinking bigger with your systems and your strategy. And so that was really the start of me thinking strategically and starting to run my portfolio like a business. And that's continued to evolve. And I'm so glad that now I'm at a point where virtual assistants run the bulk of my what I have to do for my real estate investing portfolio, even with 3 short-term rentals, right? Like I have this great virtual assistant who handles the messages and who handles the cleaner and who handles like periodic HVAC checkups and all of that stuff. And so that then I can travel the world with my family. So since February, so we're going on almost a year. It's 11 months now that we've been traveling full time. We started domestic, and then June 2023, we started international. And now we're 1 month into spending 5 months in Asia. So what I love about the system, and it didn't happen overnight, it happened. Like I said, I started implementing systems in 2019, and now I'm at a place where I can have a real estate investing portfolio, including short-term rentals, and I can literally be on the other side of the world, and it all runs.
Amazing. Now,
Talk
are you
about freedom.
continuing? Yeah. Time, money, everything. Let me ask you this. Are you continuing to buy real estate right now? Or are you sort of sustaining what you have while you focus on these goals of building businesses and really making lifelong memories with the family?
Right. Great question. And as far as active investing right now, we do have a hard money lending that we do in Chattanooga. So that
Right.
continues to run that hard money lending business as an investing business. I'm not actively buying more right now. I do plan on returning to the United States later this year, partially because in my travels, I've really come to appreciate the real estate investing opportunities that we have in the United States that don't exist in other countries. I see things like our mortgages that we can get in the United States are far and away better than the opportunities that exist in other countries. The security that we have in knowing that we can buy the land under our house, which you can't do in every country, right? The fact that you can be secure of your land rights, that you're not going to have a government that's just going to suddenly say, oh, nope, we're taking that from you, because these things have all happened in other countries. So a little bit of a tangent there, except to say that, at the end of this year, we are planning on coming back to the United States. And I think at that point, doing some more active investing with some single family homes, got some ideas that are cooking there.
That's
I love
awesome.
it.
What I think is really interesting, and we kind of glossed over it, is you were able to sell a real estate sales business, which very, very few people are. You seem very, very, focused. Was that always your end goal in that business of build it up, sell it, and transition? Or was that right place, right time, and you were ready to exit?
Right. Great question. And it wasn't always the end goal. And yet I would say in my life, I always anticipate, like, how can I arrange things just in case, right? We can have a joke about, like, I always think about 2 standard deviations for the norm, and I want to be prepared for whatever could come up, right? Another way to view it for those who are less mathematically inclined is I always want my house to be clean enough that, if I guess now it would be the King of England was to stop by, I wouldn't be embarrassed, right? I always just want to be prepared just in case. And so when I started the team, what I did just in case it got to the point of selling was I named it the Auburndale Group instead of naming it the Adrienne Green Team, right? Because I knew from the work I did in terms of learning about, building a business, is that if the less it's tied to you, John Doe is the owner, the more value it has, right? And so I did some things like that. It was never with the intention to sell, and yet it was always with the just in case, right? Just in case, let's build it smart. And that ended up paying off abundantly when I did decide to sell it, because I knew what went into the valuation, and I planned, because I had done that research beforehand, because I wanted to be prepared just in case, and I planned for it. So things like the naming of the team, things like the systems, right? Like the fact, a lot of the things that I'm talking about here, having systems, having SOPs, right? Having admins in place who are doing that work, all of that increased the team's value and saleability. Another thing I did differently from a lot of other agents is I really wasn't in production after the team was initially created and formed. My job was to build the business, to bring the leads, and to hand them to the agents. So then when you look at the team's valuation, and the valuation is a multiple of the net income of the team, right? And so if I had produced a lot of that income personally by selling real estate, that would have decreased the value, right? Because they would say, well, Adrienne's been selling half the team's transactions. If she walks away, then the team's going to make half as much, more than likely,
Mm.
right? And
Right.
that would decrease its value. So that was one of the other things I did that was very atypical, that helped me sell the team. I figured that more than the number of transactions I could do in buying or selling, if I was instead training, pouring into, and supporting the agents, then I was multiplying the number of transactions we could do rather than doing them all myself. That was my rationale while I had the team, and it ended up paying off well when I sold it. So those were some of the factors, I think. And then the other thing is, once I decided to sell the team, I committed to that. I think that was the other big factor that made a difference. Is I was like, yes, this is unusual. And yes, I feel very strongly that this is the right thing. And so I am going to be laser focused on that. And I'm going to say, yes, this is going to happen. And I'm not going to doubt myself. I'm not going to say, oh, maybe whatever. I'm going to say, this is going to happen. And it's going, I forget my exact timeline. I think it was either the end of the calendar year or by like Q1 of the next year. And it ended up happening at the end of October that same year. So I decided end of August, and just a little over 2 months later, the team was sold. So I think having that commitment really made a difference, and having it happen so quickly, because I was fully focused on that goal.
Right. That's awesome. That's really cool, because then that unlocked really the next chapter of your life, which maybe we get into that, traveling and education.
Yes. And that you're exactly right, because when I was running the real estate team, it took up a good portion of my time and energy. So I'd always had on my like quarterly plans that I make of, hey, I want to start building like an online course with what I know or things like that. And yet what ended up happening is like the important and urgent tasks that popped up with the team took my time and energy, and I never got to that kind of wish list of building an online course or doing stuff like all the travel that we did, right? I needed to be in person with the team. So when I sold the team in October of 2023, my husband and I spent the next 5 months really preparing everything. We rented out our primary residence. So we went through, got a whole bunch of stuff taken to Goodwill, really got it. We rented as a furnished rental. We took our like keepsakes and personal things and put them in storage. We also had to learn how to homeschool our kids. I have 3 children.
Right.
They are now 9, 7, and 4. And so that was another part of the process, is how are we going to teach the kids? And even as a former high school teacher, the thought of teaching much younger children was a little terrifying first. And yet it's gone so much better than I originally planned. So there's so many resources online for homeschooling. We found a program that works well for us. There's also accredited schools online. So your child is still in an accredited organization or institution. Right. It's just online. That's an option for people. But really, there were so many options, and they're so robust. And it's really as simple as my kids have a tablet and they have headphones and they have a few different programs. Like the bulk of their reading, writing, arithmetic is in one program. And then we supplement it with some other things. We're really big into languages, as you can imagine. So we do a lot with Duolingo, plus we have some tutors and some other supplements. But it's really, I think, like a lot of other things, when you commit and you're like, I'm going to do this, and it goes better than expected. So I've seen my kids really embrace being in charge of their own learning. They choose to do extra things. My son is becoming, my 7-year-old is like a chess whiz now, because he decided that he wanted to learn chess. And I mean, everything's on the internet right now. We watched YouTube videos, trainings. He plays against me and my husband. He plays on an app against other people online. And this 7-year-old, he's beat my husband. I've had a stalemate with him. He hasn't beat me yet. I'm trying to avoid playing with him because I know he's going to beat me like very, very soon. And that opportunity for him to master chess would have never happened if we weren't doing this, because now he has the time and he has the interest, and he's able to explore that interest on his own. And it's really just, I think, made them very capable learners.
What's so cool. Interesting about what you're talking about is everybody gets into real estate for freedom. And I think so few people actually have true time freedom, whether it's in their business or their portfolio, where it's just so time consuming, and they're always so busy, which is such a, bad buzzword. And that kind of brings us into, some of the coaching you're doing to help real estate investors that are, bogged down and are just totally stuck in the mundane tasks, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I'd
Yes.
love to hear
And
more.
oh, well, and you guys, I know, Will, that you love the 80/20 rule. Me too. Me too. So I'll reference that a lot. But, you're doing 100% of the stuff in your real estate business. And so many investors are, right? They're effectively solopreneurs, right? They may be working with an agent or they may be sourcing deals on their own, but they're running the numbers on every deal on their own. They're reaching out, they're doing all their outreach on their own. And then once they have properties, maybe they're using a property manager, maybe they're self-managing, and yet they're doing a ton of that. They're doing their own QuickBooks, they're doing their own social media or marketing or things like that. And it's crazy because most of these things are those bottom 80% tasks. They're the
Right.
bottom 80% tasks that the person doesn't enjoy. It's not them in their like highest zone of genius. And they're things that are repeatable and that someone else could do. And so that's where I love virtual assistants to come in and help people in a really affordable way to take over a lot of that work. And then there's also the technology aspect. Now, shout out to Dave. He has been great in STR technology. I know when I was looking to switch stuff, he recommended Hospitable, and I have absolutely loved it. So thank you, Dave, as
Yeah,
always. But
my pleasure.
there's that's the other thing is like people just don't know, and you don't know what you don't know. As an investor, you probably have demanding W-2, or you've got family or other things, and that's really where you want to be spending your time. So why not, like you guys recommend all the time, press the easy button by learning from someone else who's already made the mistakes, who's already figured it out, who already knows how to go further faster.
Right.
And what I talk about with my business coach all the time is, especially in my construction business, I'm like, gosh, I wish there was a model, wish there was a red book for it. He says, just go find somebody with the model. Stop trying to reinvent everything and stop trying to create these systems when they're already out there. Because somebody's done this before. There's no sense in trying to do it on your own anymore.
Right. And there's so much, if you value your time at all, and then also your money, there's so much of both that are wasted if you're making these preventable mistakes. Now, there's obviously a time for failing forward, and we want people to take action, and yet we want them to take smart action. And that's very easy to do by tapping into someone else who's already been there.
Yes. Now, so we have in our business, we have four different virtual assistants. One's dedicated to our consulting company, two are dedicated to our management company, and then I have one for social media. And it's super cool. My guy Chris for social media, he he is an expert. He comes to every single meeting with a plan, with some education for me, and with like a direction forward, whether it's our newsletters that are for our management business, or it's the newsletters that are going to guests, because we capture emails at every single rental that we manage. Social media plan. It's like it's amazing. He is expert in it. And at the same time, the virtual assistants in my management company, they are expert. They're hired out of Airbnb. They at least one of them, she majored in English, so super well written, well spoken. The other one didn't major in English, but once again, like I have no problem with any one of these people getting on the phone with an owner. And then the one in the consulting company actually came from Turo, but his background was in mechanical engineering. Super sharp, super quick learner. He runs everything in the consulting business, from building out listings to doing our closing the books at the end of the month. And I think a lot of people, what they don't realize is a virtual assistant, it is a person. It's not like a blank piece of technology that you have to train and educate. These are highly skilled professionals that can bring a lot to the table and teach you about your business, just as if any other employee that was stateside. And it's I don't think it's a misconception. I just think it's something that people don't realize, that like once you get a team member up and going, it really does unlock. So if your goal is to continue buying more properties, and you don't want to miss that payment for your registered agent for an LLC in whatever state it's in, or insurance renewals, or whatever it might be, or running background checks on potential tenants, it's all that and more when you work with somebody that's skilled, So I'd love to hear from you, Adrienne. I think we've heard like the genesis of the company. What went into sort of forming the company, marketing it, and then what are some things that, people can expect to get some relief on, if they were to hire somebody and work with you?
Right. Well, so there's
I guess I blended two companies there accidentally.
no, well, and the other thing is, Dave, I'm coming off of a year, or not a year. I'm coming off of a month in the Philippines. So I was just in the
Right.
Philippines. We actually had 2 different company parties for my
Wow.
virtual staffing company, Workagenics, where I got to see people in person, both that we've worked with for
So cool.
for a long time, and the newer hires. And so there's a lot of new information in my head that I am still processing to really share in a very easy to understand way. So bear with me as well as we get through this.
Yeah,
But,
it's
I
cool.
think that a few things, I think if someone's a solopreneur, a real estate investor, solopreneur listening right now, and they're like, the biggest challenge most people face is honestly the mental block. The mental block of,
Mm.
I deserve to have a virtual assistant. I can handle a virtual assistant. It's okay for someone else to work in my investing business 40 hours a week, even if I don't, right? There's a lot that comes into that because a lot of these solopreneur real estate investors, they're not used to managing other people. They're not used to, and that's a lot. That's both the mental aspect, the emotional aspect, and the ins and outs of how to do it, right? And so I'd say the first thing is really considering that mental aspect and being like, yes, it's okay. And this is going to allow me to be in my top 20% and not deal with all the drudgery. And whether or not you use that
Right.
extra free time to grow your business, or you use that extra free time for your hobbies or being with your family, all of that is okay. All right. It's all going to make you your best person, your best version of yourself.
Yeah.
That's the first thing I think people need to realize. And then the second thing is that honestly, you think, oh, I need all these other pieces. Really, that first like executive assistant hire, when you're going from a solopreneur to having that first hire, first off, we recommend that they're an executive assistant because, having done this for now almost 3 years, I have the data with our virtual staffing business of who succeeds and who doesn't. And we have seen that when somebody hires, that if their first hire is something that's just like social media or just calling, that's one of the, cold calling is one of the toughest positions to hire out. And it's not a great first hire. It just is doomed to fail. I've seen it a lot. So
Yeah.
what I would recommend if someone's thinking about it is you got to hire that executive assistant as your first hire, because that's what's really going to take your bottom 80% tasks off your plate. There's stuff you
Right.
already know how to do that you can really easily just make a video of how you do it and then and that by video, I mean like you do Loom or you do like a Zoom personal meeting room. You just share your screen and you talk through it, right? And then you can just hand that off to the virtual assistant. They handle making the procedure and then they execute that from there on out. It's that simple to get started. And every time you do that, let's say you hand off one procedure a week, that takes you an hour a week. Well, guess what? You're very quickly freeing up a lot of your time. And you guys mentioned
Totally.
some great tasks to hand off: newsletters, social media, all of those things, making and scheduling appointments, right? They can even analyze properties or anything like that. So there's really, if it's something that's on a computer or over a phone, and it's something that I would say you do periodically, right? Whether it's quarterly, monthly, weekly, daily, right? I even have given
Yeah.
virtual assistants semi-annual and annual things like you mentioned like the registered agent renewal, right? That's something that my virtual assistant does for me because I just made a video once. They wrote up the procedure and then we use monday.com as a task management system.
Yeah.
It's just a recurring task. You have there's a column where you can set, hey, where's this going to recur? And so it's so simple to say, hey, once a year you renew the registered agent accounts and it links to the procedure and then it's now on their plate and it's off of mine, which frees up my time and my mental bandwidth. That's a big part of it too, is there's just all these things that I don't have to think about anymore. So I can then be creative and thinking of new, great, bigger strategic things.
Amazing. I love it. And, a tool that has really helped us, you mentioned making videos. You're right. I have thousands of videos in Loom now. Like it's amazing, and it's helped me with sales. It's helped me with, I mean, Jess, our vice president, fired off an email about categorizing something in owner res today and a Loom video attached to that. It's like there's all these tools, and that really kind of feeds
Mhm.
into your education business of like probably how to sort of elevate yourself and what kind of tools to use to run such a team or an individual.
Mhm. Yes, and if somebody's listening and they're like, "Oh, technology, sometimes it fails." I feel you, right? It's so frustrating when you depend on something and then it evolves or change, or even just the other day, I use ChatGPT every day. And sometimes it has an
Yeah.
outage and it doesn't work. And it's like, it's so frustrating in the moment because we've come to rely on it as a part of
Mm.
our process, right? And yet, the truth is, if I take a step back from that frustration, a couple things. First, there's something else I can do, right? If it was urgent, I could work without ChatGPT and it would be okay. But I can, if it's not urgent, I can come back to it. And then if I take a step back from that moment of frustration where I'm like, oh, this is ridiculous. I just want to go be a Luddite and never use technology again. But if I take a step back and I look and I zoom out, right, which I think we recommend a lot with real estate investing. Often our frustration is just because we're too zoomed into the situation. But if I zoom out,
Yeah.
when I look at using technology or other things where I'm systematizing my business or like using people, another time that can be frustrating is when you have somebody quit, right? That can be a time when you're like, oh, I should have just
Sure.
stayed a solopreneur. But if you zoom out and you see the big picture, you see the ups and downs, right? Like on a stock market graph or something like that. And
Yeah.
yet you can see that you started out down here and you're now here. Now, granted, there were ups and downs along the way. And yet inevitably, when you are doing any of this systematization, right? If you're leveraging technology or people or proceduralizing things, you're going to end up at a higher place than you started.
That's right. That's right. Absolutely. Yeah, if I can get, some of our cleaners who have been in the industry for decades to use Slack and Monday and videos, like anything is possible.
Very
Anything
true.
is possible. Oh, I love it. I love it. So what's kind of, if I want to focus on your education business now for a moment. So there's a staffing agency that's Workergenics, and it really is cool just, to do a quick plug for Workergenics. Like anybody that is feeling like they need some relief, Workergenics is this cool business that's like done for you and done with you at the same time. So they're going to help find people that you can interview to see who might be a good fit. They're going to educate you on how to be a good leader. They're going to create systems using technology and tools so you can really track what your team member is doing and how effective they are. And Workergenics also at the same time, not only are they serving as an education department for that virtual team member so they can support you, but they're also essentially serving as an HR department too. So it gives
Mm.
you
Mhm.
a place that you're familiar with for sending payment, as well as like if you have a challenge, their team, Harley and Adrienne and the team can step in and work through the problem, which is really, really helpful. It's not like a black hole, like somebody half a world away. So I want to just put a little plug in there because it really is in the beginning helpful to have that hand holding as you're learning. Um,
Well, Dave, I'm just going to
yeah.
hire you now to do our sales calls.
I got you.
Okay, can I
So
do
here's
that?
what I'll do. I'll put together a Loom video and then you can send it
Yeah.
out.
Yes. Well,
We'll capture this. We'll send it out.
Clip it. Chris can clip it. Yeah.
yes.
That's right.
Well, you did that perfectly, Dave, and that's where, I've had for almost 3 years now this virtual staffing business, and it really is a concierge service that is like Dave said, we do everything, right? And what I was finding is that some real estate investors, they wanted to use a virtual assistant. They needed help with it, and yet they couldn't afford yet to pay for that full service, right? And so that's why I developed this virtual course that is really walks you through. It's a one-time fee, totally online. You get access for a year, work through at your own pace, and that is obviously at a lower price than a consistent monthly service. But it walks you through and kind of shares everything that we've learned through having a virtual staffing business with a ton of tools. So when you go to hire that person, It has like a job template, right? It has an interview script. It has all these, it has a sample 30, 60, 90 for onboarding them, right? Like the exact one that I use for my property management virtual assistant. I shared with you the one I use, and then I shared a template that you could fill in yourself. So, I wanted to meet real estate investors where they are, and some just aren't at the point where they can afford that full service yet. So that's why I made this online course to help people at a price point that maybe is a little bit more reachable for them as well.
And what I love about the online courses is I literally will pay for that kind of stuff and have my virtual assistant watch it and go back. And then the information's there instead of the, hey, I got a minute, I have a question. It's, hey, all the information's there. Just go rewatch the module. I'm a huge fan of the, self-paced courses. It's a really great tool.
I agree.
Awesome.
You can keep tapping into it and everything. Well, we're coming up to the end of our time here. Adrienne, what are some ways that folks can get in touch with you, learn more about you, about the services that you provide, and what are some websites which we'll make sure to put in the show notes for everybody?
Sure. Well, I know we've talked a lot about my virtual staffing business here. So if somebody is looking to have that easy button and really get the most leverage with their time, that's where you should go check it out. That is workergenix.com, workergenix.com. And we have a delegate or die checklist there, which really helps you identify, there's over 100 tasks that a virtual assistant commonly does for someone. So it really can be kind of a memory jogger or some inspiration to help with that, thinking of what they could do and take off your plate. And then if a real estate investor is looking to maybe connect with me, talk to me, or interested in the course that I have, they can go to adriennegreen.com, ADRIENNEGREEN.com. And there I have a freedom blueprint, which is like the 10 key pieces that I first put into place when I was really organizing my portfolio as a business. So they can get those for free, those 10 key pieces, evaluate what they have already and where they maybe need to put some time and effort into building out so that they can start systematizing and getting that time and financial freedom they're going for.
I love it.
And you're really active on LinkedIn too. So that seems to be like a good hub for your businesses and everything like that. If people just want to see what you're up to.
Yeah, thanks to my virtual assistant, I can post a lot on various social media channels.
Gets my attention. You're staying top of mind. Yeah.
I love it. So. Awesome. Well, Adrienne, this was really special. Again, for anyone that wants to hear all of like the ins and outs of Adrienne and Harley's real estate investing journey specifically, head on back to episode number 15. Back from November of 2022. If you like this episode, we'd love for a 5-star review. Just hop on wherever you listen to, Spotify, Apple, throw a 5-star review in there, comment, anything you want. And make sure to reach out to Adrienne. So, if you're a real estate investor or a busy professional and you have a few properties, I mean, this is a great spot. Adrienne has been an amazing resource for me over the last coming up on 5 years now. And, just super happy to have you on. All right. Cool. Well, with that, thank you, everyone. Have a great day, and we'll see you next week.
See you next week.
And that's a wrap for this episode of Hassle-Free RE. We hope you found today's tips and stories as inspiring and useful as I did. Remember, success in the short-term rental industry is all about learning, adapting, and staying one step ahead. If you enjoyed the show, please take a moment to leave us a review or comment on your favorite platform. Your feedback helps us improve and reach more listeners like you. Plus, we'd love to hear your thoughts and any topics you'd like us to cover in future episodes. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And follow us at Hassle-Free RE on social media for more tips and updates. Thanks for tuning in. And until next time, keep it hassle-free.